in one. Welcome back to another NWA Talking Territories episode of the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. You will notice that conspicuous by her absence, my usual co-host, Miss Fiona Loughran, is currently on assignment in a gala show over in Scotland. They have the sun. Well, at least I have it here in England. Not sure if she's got it in Scotland. So she will not be joining us on this episode, unfortunately. But, however, she has provided the last question, which she normally asks our guest. But our guest is a very important one. She is the current reigning, defending WLW Women's Champion. It is Skylar Sparks. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you for taking time out of your afternoon, I believe, to come and or late morning, early afternoon, to come and talk to us here. I did see a video that WLW posted of a, well, so-called recent title defense that you were meant to have, and you, I believe, was it injured your pinky?
I did, I suffered, and I would have said this, but the fans unfortunately wouldn't let me speak, so this is kind of their fault, not mine. Uh, in training, I suffered a really gruesome injury to my left pinky finger, right? Like the nail. Somebody stepped on it,
Nice.
and unfortunately, it caused a bunch of nerve damage all the way up to my shoulder, so I couldn't compete. But yeah, the fans, they wouldn't let me say that, unfortunately. So I had to do what was best for me. I'm not going to put my life and limb on the line during an injury just to defend my title. So I had to put myself
Definitely not. For those people that haven't seen it, it is available. The WLW are showing it on one of their posts on X. To quote the phrase Dominic Mysterio heat, I think that's where you pretty much were on that level. That they didn't like you there, did they? Let's be
They
honest.
didn't. And it's funny because this is the second time they've done this to me. So I think it was back in maybe December. I came out to maybe January, somewhere in that time range. I came out to address them, wouldn't let me speak. I was like, I've done nothing wrong to you people. What can you say? Obviously, I couldn't say anything. So, yeah, the World League Wrestling fans and I, we are not on the same page. But I mean, the page that I'm on and the level that I'm on is like right up here, and they're kind of down here anyway. So, should I be upset? No,
No, you shouldn't be upset and basically just raise the title in the air, right? Because you are the
exactly. It
champion.
doesn't matter if you let me speak or not. I'm still walking out the champion.
There you go. Just to touch on that though, look, you are the late women's champion in WLW, obviously legendary Harley Race and a territory of the NWA. Number one, sort of how proud of you of becoming that champion, and two, how much does it sort of fill you with pride? Because A, the lineage of Harley Race, and B, the NWA, they've got some amazing women in their division. You've taken some on in your past, but to be a ladies champion in WLW and obviously be a part of this territories must be really good for you.
It is. And actually, Worldly Wrestling and I, we kind of go like I have a long history with them. So to cut a very, very long story short, when Worldly Wrestling was in its original home down in the middle of Missouri, middle
Yeah.
United States, my family, they all lived down there. So I would go to the shows as a kid and I would watch. That was the first live wrestling experience I ever had was Worldly Wrestling. And so, you know, 20 years later to be able to be the champion of the women's division there, it's like a full circle moment for me. So I do hold a lot of pride, and for a very long time there, the women's championship was vacant. And
Mm.
so being able to bring that back and be able to, just bring the division back, two, bring the championship back and have a lot of buzz and a lot of talk about that title, uh, it does fill me with a lot of pride.
Yeah, it should do. I mean, there is a tremendous lineage, and you've said there you go to the shows, which was kind of bringing me along the line of when you were growing up. Sort of, was it a wrestling household? Was it just you? How did it all materialize for you?
And no, it was just me. Like I was the only one in my household that loved wrestling. But the way that I got introduced to worldly wrestling was one of my aunts. She was doing concession stands the concession stand at the event, but she was doing it in the sense of it was for like a fundraiser. So she was working for the fundraiser and doing the concession stands, but she knew that I watched professional wrestling on TV. So I watched WWE a lot
Yeah.
growing up because it was at the time the only thing on TV really.
Yeah.
And so she asked me, she's like, "Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Well, of course I want to go. Like, I'm not going to turn that down." So that was the first time I had been in person to a wrestling show. And I was hooked ever since.
Mm.
Ever since. And she knew I loved it, so she took me, and I guess, the rest is history.
The rest is history. You mentioned that you've grown up watching WWE. Who was your like favorites when you was watching WWE
Oh
growing up?
man. So when I first started watching WWE, I was like a late Attitude Era,
Mhm.
early Ruthless Aggression kid.
Yep.
So early 2000s, late 90s. Obviously Stone Cold, right? You
Yeah.
couldn't grow up or you couldn't watch wrestling without liking Stone Cold.
Yep.
So Stone Cold, Randy Orton, he's like the hometown guy, so I kind of have to like him. But I loved how mean he was, but I also loved just how he does the small things right.
Mm.
And then as I started to expand my wrestling library and started actually watching older tapes on
Mm.
YouTube, go into any of the video stores and getting old VHS tapes, Harley, Ric
Yep.
Flair, Steamboat, uh, Dory Funk, Terry Funk, all of I would say probably like Harley's era, Dusty. I started really liking the old school way that wrestling was.
Which is quite interesting because if you look at NWA, that's exactly they kind of do that. I mean, you watch episodes of Power every week, currently on X, soon to be on Roku. If you watch that, it does take you even back to probably when I was growing up, a little bit before you. I was sort of so in the UK, we got it late 80s, early 90s, so around WrestleMania 5 or 6. But
Yeah.
if you go back to those days, and then you watch like an episode of Power, it is kind of that but with a 2025 feel to it. And what I mean by that is, and what always no, it always pops me when I'm watching it, Damage will hit a drop kick and the match is over.
Yep.
That's what I
It's
love.
got that old school like nostalgic feel with like a new school. I hate to use the word, but I'm gonna use it, vibe.
Yeah, vibe, yeah. Or aura now, isn't it? That's the
Aura.
word now, isn't it? That's the buzzword of
Yeah.
it, aura. And also some of the venues that they use are absolutely tremendous. I mean, we was talking to Brandon Beretta a couple of weeks ago, and he was telling us about these venues. And I always remember the venue of Samhain One, and I can't remember the ring off because I've not got my notes from the Brandon one, but it was like a theater, and
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
just amazing. Some of the arenas you got over in the States are incredible to watch wrestling in.
It is. And I've had the pleasure of being in very unique arenas as well too. So just seeing that old school theater, that old school just set up sometimes it just brings back like kid memories.
It does. And now it's going to move along because I'm just talking about arenas. So I'm going to segue off to one of my other questions that I normally ask. What are the arenas that you on your bucket list that you haven't gone to compete in yet that you would like to?
Hmm. I mean, I think just growing up in the States, the biggest one for me is Madison Square Garden. I think,
Yeah.
in general, anytime you're in like sports and stuff like that, or any kind of athletics, Madison Square Garden, that's like the be all end all of arenas. It's like one of the oldest arenas in the United States. There's just so much history there as well, too. So being able to just kind of etch my name in its history would be like a bucket list item for me, which, from what I hear, is an NWA going to be in New York
They are.
soon.
They
Yeah.
certainly are. The Paramount in Huntington for NWA
Yeah.
77.
Yep.
That it's interesting though, because you mentioned Madison Square Garden, because like, of all the arenas nowadays that you see in wrestling, it's not the biggest, is it? But I've been to New York and I didn't go into Madison Square Garden, I have to admit. But what is it about that arena that's just so, I mean, I know it was the home of the WWE for so long. I used to obviously see it on the TV, but what is it about that arena that's just so iconic?
Well, I think to me, in my opinion, it's not just the arena.
Mm,
It's also New York City itself.
yeah.
Uh, it adds to its value, it adds to its history, it adds to its attraction. I've been to New York City a couple times, and while I didn't go into Madison Square Garden, I've been by Madison Square Garden. Um, and for me, I think it's a combination of just that's where the greats have played.
Mm.
That's where like some of the greatest in their field have played, from basketball to a host of other uh, athletic competitions that they've hosted, on top of the concerts that they've hosted. So just being able to say you've been in the same building as some of the greatest people that have played their own sport, like to me, that's what attracts me to that arena.
Yeah, I think when this is it's kind of it's totally different, but when I went to the WrestleManias, I didn't go to one in Madison Square Garden, but when I went to my first one, which was in the Staples Center, WrestleMania 21, it was the kind of like for me, and maybe it's the same, but just in a totally different context. When I got there, the first thing that I did was just inhaled and took it all in, and it was kind of like I've made it, not from a professional wrestling standpoint, because I've trained, but I've never done it, but just for that sense of wow, I've actually got to like a dream. It was always like a pipe dream for me to head to WrestleMania. I've done five ever since, but it's just that whole, I suppose, finally getting there and doing it. Would that kind of be the same, just in the fact that you're wrestling at the arena that you wanted to wrestle in?
Yeah, I would say, it's just one of those things that we all have bucket list items as a kid, or we all have goals in our professions. And I think just being able to say that I've wrestled in the same building as some of the greatest professional wrestlers that have been in our business would um, just be an experience for me.
Yeah, definitely. So, talk to us about you when you're training, because obviously you're not been. I know you've been around, but not been not been too long active, is it in wrestling in terms of that? When did you start to piece together like how you were going to wrestle? Because obviously you got the high flyers, you got the technicals, you got the heavyweights. When did you start sort of piecing together that kind of this is who I am and this is what I'm going to how I'm going to wrestle?
Yeah. Well, so before I wrestled, I was a referee from 2019 to 2023. So I refereed. So I had the honor of being in the ring with a lot of different wrestlers,
Yeah.
probably wrestlers that I would never be in the ring with if I wasn't a referee. So I got to see a lot of the different styles. And me, I'm not a high flyer at all. I feel like I would jump and break an ankle, and I don't want to do that. So I was like, I knew for me that was not going to be it. And I don't like leaving my feet very much. So for me, I knew I was never going to be a high flyer, but I always liked the technical aspect
Mm.
of wrestling. Just being able to, put your opponent in different holds, different submissions. But also at the same time, I can lift a lot of people. I used to do powerlifting when I
Yeah.
was in high school. Not a lot, like don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I have a ton of records or anything. So I knew like there was going to be some opponents that I could really like pick up and throw around, which is very surprising to a lot of people because I'm only 5'2" on a good day. So I'm not very tall or anything like that. So I have to be kind of crafty and do things that people don't expect. And you have other people who are great at leaving their feet, and I'm going to leave that to them. So to say that there was a timeline, I can't say that there was a timeline. I kind of just got in there and I realized from the start, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to do that. But I still think that even today, I'm still trying to figure out, who I am in the ring, what I like to do in the ring. So you may see me bust out a move every once in a while. You're like, oh, I didn't even know you could do that.
Is it kind of also when you've watched because you mentioned you watched some of the old tapes and a lot of the older wrestlers were such great technicians as well. Did that kind of play into it a little bit because I know you watched the WWE, the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era, and what have you, but when you study the tapes and you study the looks of the likes of Ric Flair and the people like that who really were technically sort of get Matt gifted anyway, did that kind of play a part into it?
It did. And I've been going back through and watching all the old WCW
Mm.
uh, episodes that are on, I think, Peacock. I want to say it's on
Yeah.
Peacock. So I got the opportunity to watch some of those episodes, and I've actually picked up a couple moves from Dean Malenko. I get in the ring, I'm like, okay, I want to try this. And I'm sitting there with my phone, scrolling through in slow mo, like, okay, he did this, then he did that. And so, yeah, I would say that there are a lot of people I take inspiration from, especially because I can't come up with these moves on my own. But there's an old saying, what was old will now become new, or
Yeah.
eventually become new. So I like to bring a little bit of old school into my wrestling as well.
Yeah, that is very interesting. And it kind of again fits with the mantra of the NWA and WLW, that whole old to new thing. We're going to just break off again, and I want to ask another random question. This is like a table of four. You've got three people that you can invite from the wrestling world. It doesn't have to be wrestlers, it can be whoever, past, present, or but who would your three people be around a dinner table?
Hmm. Man, I would say Ric Flair,
Yeah.
because there's so much you can learn from him. And then Randy Orton, because I love how he does the small things right. He does
Mhm.
so many small things. And that's something that I really want to work on is the small things. And then the third, hmm, man, I think I would probably choose Ricky Steamboat.
Ricky Steamboat. That's three great people to have around and to be that metaphorical sponge for and just listen and take it all in. Just going back now to the NWA, their women's division is quite incredible. And I know you've had the pleasure of I think taking on Pretty Empowered, you've taken on Markova in the
Yes.
past. And obviously, women's wrestling rightfully is now, well, it's now over the years has now become a thing where it is equal in a lot of ways, and maybe still needs an improvement there, here and there from some promotions where they seem to do it when it suits, and then when it doesn't suit it, it goes back. But it's getting there, which is great because women are super talented, and the NWA roster, I've already said before so many times, I would stack up against any of the women's rosters. But my question is, if Billy was to call you and say, Skylar, we want you now on that main roster from NWA going forward, would you be ready for that challenge if that call come in?
I think I would be ready in the sense of being willing to do whatever I'm asked of
Mm.
and being willing to have the self-awareness to know that I have a lot of room to grow. So in the sense of being ready, I would be ready to learn. I'd be ready to do whatever I'm asked of. I'd be ready to just be a sponge, really, just learn everything I can possibly learn from the people that have been there longer than me.
Yeah, I mean, say being a sponge, and she's not very old at all. But the Kenzie Page is one of those people that just we've had obviously Aaron Stevens on, we've had EC3 and so many other the experienced NWA guys on, and they were just like when she come in, she was just like you just said, they're a sponge. But now you would think that the newer people that come in would kind of be a sponge to her, which is mad to think that she's only 22, 23 years old, but people are going to go to her for the advice and for the assistance and to be a sponge to her.
Exactly. I mean, and that's because she's been where we want to be.
Hmm.
So she knows, what it takes to be there, what it takes to stay there, obviously what it takes to be their champion. So uh yeah, it's funny how you think in your head you're gonna learn the most from the people that are older than you, but I think people fail to realize even in life, you can also learn just as much from people who are younger than you because they've had more life experience than you.
Yeah, and definitely that, and obviously running KFW as well with the in the family
Mhm.
brings that obviously brings her level again. But again, you've got to be talented though. That's the thing I would say. And a lot of people will kind of not say go shy when I say that, but kind of like But what I mean is you've got to be talented enough to get in that ring, and the fact that you are talented enough to get in the ring and do what you do now, even more so before you go to them, shows that you've got it. It's just how I suppose, how you want to advance yourself in there to get better and better and better.
Yeah, yeah. It's all an evolution. Like you start here. How do you become bigger? How do you become better? How do you get to the next level? Whatever that next level in your mind is.
Exactly that. You mentioned the word evolution there, which is quite interesting because going forward in the next month or two, WWE are bringing back an evolution to the all women's pay-per-view. And I do wonder, are we going to get to a stage because there is so much talent within the women in wrestling in general? Do we get to a stage soon where there is just going to be an all women's promotion or an all women's show? Or do you think that it's better to have that, I suppose, the men and the women on the shows together for maybe even for the equality stuff? Because is there an issue with saying having an all women show because then the men get left, if that makes sense?
Well, there are some promotions in the States that they're all women.
Yes.
And they draw good. They have a great fan base, they have a great following. The fans are very interactive, the fans are very entertained when they're there. And think for me, there were so many, and there still are so many promotions out there that are just men. So I don't see anything wrong with there being just an all women's promotion. Um, and I think that so long as the fans are happy, the fans are entertained, the fans leave feeling as though the money that they paid was worth it, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah,
Um, I think that there are plenty of promotions out there that have all men just on their roster,
yeah,
but doesn't mean they're the best promotion. So,
no.
so at the same time, having that mixture of men and women, um, to me, it's not necessary per se, but I think it just helps elevate the competition.
Yeah, certainly does. We have an all women's promotion over here called Eve, who actually, funny enough, is Will Ospreay of AEW does a lot of work for that
Okay.
promotion. So that's pretty cool over here. They're running London quite a lot. And another question outside of what we're going to talk about, and I think I said this to you before we start. What's your top three entrance musics in wrestling?
So, with top three, as in like that are currently out there, or top three that I would choose as my own entrance music?
Oh no, the top three, not your entrance music, the top three that are out there.
I really enjoyed, this isn't one that's currently used, but I really enjoyed Chris Jericho's Break the Walls Down when he
Yeah,
was in WWE. John Cena's is always a hit. Like he released that CD back in the day, and
yeah.
I probably played that nonstop. Um, the third one though, I'd say Cargill. I really love her. There's no words that I know of.
Yeah. Oh, no, there's a storm is coming bit right at the
Yeah, yeah,
start. But that's
yeah.
funny that because we were talking to a former AEW wrestler, Bear Bronson, literally yesterday at the time of recording, and we were saying just sometimes the most impactful music in wrestling doesn't need a word to it. If you look
Yes,
at the like MJF, Undertaker's one, before he changed to the American Badass and things like that, how you don't need lyrics necessarily as long as there is like a beat to it, right? And it's
yeah,
crazy that you say that when you said about Jade Cargill, because I never thought of Jade's without the theme, but there isn't no words other than the bit at the start, which is quite interesting when you say that. But yeah, it can make a big difference. Does the music sometimes define a wrestler as well? Like, because sometimes people like, for example, Roman Reigns is a prime example. He doesn't have any. There's no words, but when that music hits, and it seems like the Austin Glass Smash, right? When the Austin, you were like, oh my God. So does sometimes the music is also important because it defines that wrestler or defines what's coming in a lot of senses.
exactly, exactly. I think Roman is a great example, especially since he changed his music from
Yeah,
the Shield days
yeah,
to what it is now, and really what it was when he came back after the pandemic.
yeah,
Um, you hear that, and at least I do. I feel like I'm in almost a trance of like, okay, it's like something big is going to happen.
yeah.
It feels like a big like Marvel fight is about to happen.
Yeah, it does. It does with him. It's just, and something, I think when The Rock called him like called himself the final boss, and the music sort of like, oh, and you final boss, you're thinking end game kind of
Mhm.
thing. And same with Roman when he come out, you were like, oh, okay, the tribal chief. This is the big dog, what he used to be, right before that.
Yeah.
But going back to a question on that, if you could choose an artist to give you an entrance theme, who would you choose?
So this is initially what I thought the question kind of was like, what song would I choose to be my entrance
Mhm.
music? I feel like you can appreciate this song, what I'm about to say. Maybe not necessarily the song, but the artist I'm about to say. So there's this one song that anytime I hear it, it's just to use a word you used earlier, it has aura to me. Just I really feel like I'm in a big fight feel. And it's Skyfall by Adele.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
so if I could choose one person to like do my entrance music or sing a song that would be my entrance music, it would be Adele. And people would not think that she would be able to do it well, but her voice is very, very powerful. Um, and it gives me chills. So if anything, it'd be for me, not for anybody else.
Well, if you appear at NWA 77, maybe we, could get Adele to play you out. 'Cause it's always the big events, right? They get the big lavish entrances, right? So
Yes.
Adele, if you're probably not watching, but if you are, You want to sing out Skylar Sparks at some point. I'm sure we could get Skyfall on there, but that would be a tremendous. I've never heard anyone say that either, which is quite, not it's not a bad thing. It's just a really interesting song. But I get it. The power of a voice can, can make it happen and can make that crowd just sort of stand up, right? Because way she sings it. She's incredible at what she does. I wanted to go to NWA 77 because it is coming up. And obviously, look, we don't know whether you're going to be there. We don't know that yet. It's 2 months away. But just the importance of NWA 77. It is the oldest wrestling company in the world. Billy Corgan's done an amazing job that of by when he bought it, and I always make the thing that Fiona was the one that my co-host was the one that basically reintroduced me to NWA. She used to post pictures of her watching it, and I was like, "What? Why are you watching wrestling from the '80s?" And she was like, "No, no, this is like wrestling of now." And so that's how it all started. But the importance of NWA 77, it is there. It is your NWA's version of WrestleMania, but it actually bigger than that, isn't it? Because the NWA is older. How excited is it, even from the territory perspective, that it's just around the corner and there may be a chance of getting on that show?
Yeah. So, when NWA came back, they used to have this event like for three, maybe 2-ish years straight, maybe three. I think it was two. They had it in St. Louis, Missouri, which is where I
Yep.
live. And so, Worldly Wrestling, we would go down there, offer help, anything of that nature. And I think that's kind of where the reignition of the relationship started.
Hmm.
So this event, it means a lot for Worldly specifically, just because we were kind of close to it when it came back. But now that we're part of the territories, it gives us something that's at least within reach to shoot for, to reach for, to try and get our foot in the door, to try to do something, to try to be a part of something bigger. So, one, I think the territories bringing it back was a great idea. It's a great idea. It's such a throwback to the original NWA and how they operated. But now that we have this close relationship with them, it does give us, like I said, something to aim for, something to shoot for, something that's within reach that, to help just get us to a bigger level than where we're at now.
Definitely so, and hopefully we'll see you on there in the future. But there's two questions to go, and then we'll start to wrap up. The first one is mine, and I hit on it before. You've wrestled some of the NWA women before, but I want you to now say, look, if that call did come in from Billy, why don't you just give the women of the NWA roster a message from Skylar Sparks to them?
A message from me to the women of NWA.
Yeah.
I would say be prepared, because I may seem very, very kind. I may seem very, very nice, but the moment that I step in the ring, it's completely different. Like it's business time. It's time to lace up, and it's time to put on a show. But I would absolutely love the opportunity to be a part of that roster, because I know that locker room has so much talent that I would love to learn from.
There we go. Billy, make it happen soon, please. Last question of the show before we wrap up, and I did give you this ahead of time, and you ready to be answered anyway. This would normally be Fiona's job, so I can't do the Scottish accent, so I'm not going to. But Fiona would normally ask our guest on the NWA the last question of the show, but she has texted to me today because obviously, like I said, she was at a booking. So she has asked, and she's asked some weird questions. She asked Brandon Beretta if if something like, what object would you be of a wrestling ring, or something stupid like that, but it was quite funny. And he did answer. I can't remember what he said. No, I think he might have said the ring bell or something like that. But anyway, she hasn't gone that bad for you, as you know, but she's asked you, obviously you mentioned you're universally hated by the crowd at WLW. And she's said what is the funniest thing that a fan has yelled at you that's even made you laugh?
So, and I hope this guy never sees it. I hope this guy never sees this, but at the same time, I do, because it made me laugh in the middle of a match. I had to like put my head down because I couldn't stop laughing. So, when I'm in the ring and doing any kind of like athletic stuff, my face gets really red. I'm very pale, right?
Yeah.
So easily my face just gets very, very red. I don't know if anybody's seen this movie, but this guy said to me, he yells, and you can hear it on tape. He yells, "You look like Chucky's sister." So if you've ever seen the movie Chucky, the
Right.
doll, it's got red hair, orange hair. I have like kind of reddish brownish hair. Face was really red. And he's like, "You look like Chucky's sister." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And I think that was around August or September. We had an October show, and I knew that guy was going to be there. And I was like this close from dressing up as Chucky just just to give that guy a hard time.
That is, and to be fair, that is a quite a clean one as well. I can't imagine what some of the stuff that gets said on the shows out there as well as over here. So that's actually really good, but it's hilariously funny at the same time. I could see why that one made you laugh. But Sky, look, we're going to start wrapping up now. But before we do, where can anyone get a hold of you? What have you got coming up that obviously you can announce? And if you've got any merch or anything like that, is that just events that you can get it, or can they get it elsewhere?
Yeah, so my socials, it's Skylar_Sparks 1 on all socials. That's Instagram and X or Twitter, whichever you call it. And then you can find me on Facebook as well, just Skylar Sparks. You can see me on World League Wrestling every month on Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, they're constantly updating their socials. In the future, I will actually be at this upcoming weekend, which is June 21st. I will be at Iron Pro Wrestling in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And that's really the ones that I can reveal at this moment. But World League Wrestling every month, you can catch me there.
Catch her there. And you know what? My champ, we have a championship over here in the UK, and currently held by a lady called Aluna. So if you're ever over here and you want a title shot, I'm sure Aluna will be more accommodating and allow you to have that opportunity. So you never know. We could make that happen.
I would love to come over to anywhere in the UK and wrestle. So any place.
There we go. Aluna, the challenge has actually been set already. We'd have to try and make it happen. But look, guys, coming up on the show very, very soon, we will have the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Tom Latimer, joining us as part of our 100th episode special of NWA Power in just a few short weeks. On top of that, myself and my other co-host, David, will be interviewing Gangrel from The Brood very, very soon. Big thanks to the Nemeth brothers who come on as part of our partnership with TNA for our special 1000th piece of content. So big thanks to them and TNA. RVD as well is on here. You can check them all down in the playlist below this video. And if you want to do the NWA stuff, Aaron Stevens, EC3 is on there as well. Kenzie and Kylie Page have also joined us. So go and check that down below in the playlist. And you can always check us out on X at HTT Buckle on YouTube, Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast on all other social media outlets. And of course, our big show with Ignite, September the 21st, our third joint show together. Names to be announced, but there are going to be some big UK names, possibly a name from TNA as well. When we can announce it, we will. But Skylar, it has been great talking to you. Thank you so much for taking your time to come and talk to us today. We'll look forward to seeing your action in WLW, and hopefully we'll see you on an episode of Power in the future as well.
That's the goal. I appreciate you having me, so thank you very much.
Thank you indeed, Skylar. That has been Skylar Sparks. I have been Adam Cousins, and you have been watching NWA Talking Territories on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. But until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and good.